Okay.
Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and I met a very cool girl last month in LA. I was at a seminar, and I met up with some friends, and they brought her along, which was just kind of my stroke of luck that she does something really amazing that I wanted to share with you. So her name is Kim Hammer, and she was actually widowed when she was 44 years old, which that alone right there sucks, right? So we all know people and friends, and it seems like there's so many, either your friends or family or coworkers. We all know people who was, uh, affected by cancer, affected by loss, affected by crisis. And what Kim found is that when she was in the middle of taking care of her husband, and then after he passed away, her friends found these really cool, unique, and inspiring ways to support her and her family. So, actually, kind of got choked up there just thinking about that. So, uh, Kim, in order to pay it forward, what she did is she wrote a book and actually has a website now called 100 Acts of Love, which teaches people and inspires people with all these amazing ways to support your friends, support your coworkers, and give them ideas and clues on how to treat you and how to treat those that maybe need your support and love. But you know, it's kind of difficult because what do you say besides I'm sorry or what can I do? In fact, so I got a copy of Kim's book right here. It's an amazing, lovely, beefy book, and it's the cool thing is it's really easy to read. So there's not like a whole bunch of dense things in here, but what's cool is every single thing in here gives you ideas on how to deal with and help and support your girlfriends, your coworkers, and even different family members. So Kim is waiting in the wings, and we're going to talk about some cool things that she's doing with this. And so Kim, I hope if you want to add something to your little bio there, go ahead and go for it.
I think the only thing I need to add, because my children will be mad that if they
Oh,
don't hear that they were not mentioned. So I do have 3 children.
yes, yes, yes. In fact, I haven't met them yet, but yes, I've seen photos, and she's got 3 beautiful children who definitely need to be mentioned because I'm sure they keep you going and keep you inspired. And sometimes our kids keep us going. So yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So tell us your story and this whole 100 Acts of Love. I love it. I love it so much.
Oh, thank you, Jane. It's I'm really glad. I mean, I love hearing that because that's what the purpose of the book is to people to kind of pick it up and feel it and hold it and love it and then open it up and use it. So you talked a little bit about my story. My husband was first diagnosed with cancer when he was 42. Our kids were super young. And, as they say in cancer lingo, which I don't like, but, he fought it really well and he beat it. And then less than 2 years later, it came back. And 4 months after that, he died. And so the experience, as I'm sure you all know, or can even think about, is it was harrowing. He was 44. This wasn't supposed to happen. We had 3 kids who at the time were 12, 9, and 7. And it was just, I just remember waking up thinking, this isn't happening to me. Like this can't be my life. This can't be our life. But the amazing thing that happened while he had cancer and after he died was the community came together and did amazing, amazing things. And, they set up the meal train, which was great, definitely needed, but it was just the creative and really thoughtful ways that people just stepped forward and did things for us that blew me away. And, I can honestly say that those first 2 years out of the gate without my husband, I wouldn't have survived them. I really don't think I would have survived them if it hadn't been for the way that people stepped in. And the book initially started as a way to document to my children how loved their father was, because look at what all these people did for us. And then I just realized, I needed to get the word out, because if I had been my friend during that crisis, I wouldn't have known what to do. And I would have been like, oh, I'm so sorry. And if you need anything, let me know, which is the least helpful statement. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I wouldn't have known what to do. So I realized there's all these people out there who have their friends or, have cancer, or they're going through a crisis, or they're dealing with death, and they want to help. They love their friend, their coworker, their family member. They want to step in, they want to support them, but they just don't know what to do. So in those cases, most times people don't do anything. And it's a shame, because it is at that moment where that love exchange is really so powerful, and really does bring a person, really does help heal a person no matter what journey they're on.
Yeah, and I love that. In fact, one of the things I really loved is the way your book was set up and some of the really key things that you said. So I know I have a tiny little 5 questions here. So let's just start with the top one. What is the worst thing that you can say? I think this is so key and so critical, because when I read that what that was, the worst thing you can say, I've probably said that 100 times over the years to people that have gone through loss and gone through a crisis. And that's the thing that we all say, because that's, what else do you say?
Yeah.
So anyway, so why don't you start with that question? What is the worst thing you can say to someone that's going through a crisis, going through a loss? And let's go from there.
Sure. So the worst thing you can say is, if you need anything, let me know. And I know everyone's going, like, I've said it, and we have all said it. I have said it. And I said it a lot before my husband had cancer, because I thought I was being helpful. But here's why it's not helpful. First of all, the person is in crisis, and you're asking them, when you say, if you need anything, you are literally asking them to take apart their day and to figure out what it is they need. And from a person who was in crisis, I didn't know what I needed. Beyond someone dropping off meals, I had no idea that I needed sometimes to have my gas filled, that I needed someone to make my kids lunch, that I needed laundry done, that I needed someone to come in and, just get my husband rides back and forth to the cancer treatment center. I had no idea that those are the things I needed. And so you're asking that person to figure that out, and they don't know. The second thing you're putting pressure on them with that statement is you're asking them to figure out what it is that you're actually willing to do. Because although in the moment you said anything and you really thought you meant anything, you didn't really mean anything. I mean, were you willing to go in and read to her dying mother? Are you okay sitting with someone who's dying? Are you, if you don't have kids, are you okay going to pick up her sick toddler at school who's dripping green snot? Or did you just really want to go by and pick up a gallon of milk? So anything is too big for her or for him. And so they can't wrap their heads around what anything is. And then the third thing is, so let's just say, hypothetically, that she figures out what she needs and she's willing to ask you for it. Now she has to take the risk and the courage, right? She's exhausted. She's completely overwhelmed. Her life is turned upside down. And now you're asking her to have the courage to come to you and ask you to do something that you may not even want to do, right? She's not going to do that. She's not going to risk it. So instead, he's going to say, you know what? I'll take care of it myself. So that's why that statement is so not helpful. What is really super helpful is to be as specific as you possibly can. The book is dedicated to a guy named Kinney who works in the Venice farmers market, as well as a couple other farmers markets out here in Los Angeles. And it's because when Kinney found out that my husband had cancer, he said to me, if you need anything heavy moved, let me know. And I thought that was the weirdest offer ever, but it stuck in my head. And we had a grand piano. And at that point, I was like, I need something heavy moved. And who did I call? I called Kinney. So be as specific as you possibly can and offer more than once.
Yeah, and I think that's perfect. In fact, so that really actually leads right into the next. So what's the best thing you can say?
I will say there are no perfect best things to say.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, what makes it hard for us is we want our words to really mean something. And really what we want is we want to take them away from their pain. We want to bring back their loved one. We want to get rid of their cancer for them. We want them not to go through a divorce, whatever the crisis is. And we can't do that. And so we often feel really powerless, and that makes us really uncomfortable. But words, things that you can say, really do help a person. So saying simply, I am so sorry that this is part of your life journey, is a great thing to say. If there is a death, be specific. Don't say, I'm sorry for your loss, but say, I'm so sorry that your brother died, your husband died, your child died, whatever it is. Be specific, because it really means a lot more. One of the most wonderful things I heard said was at a funeral for a 13-year-old girl who was hit by a car. And he said, please know that, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry, I'm sorry that you're going through this. Your pain breaks my heart. I love you, and you're not alone. And those are just such powerful words, because no matter what the crisis is, the person's crisis is looking up, and everyone, the life around them is going on like normal, but their life is completely turned upside down. And so they feel really isolated. And if you can just say to them, you're not alone, and I'm sorry for your loss, and what you're going through breaks my heart. It means so much to them. It means that you're connected, and that's what they need to really hear the most of.
Yeah, I think that's really amazing to hear, because we want to be human. We want to show compassion and sympathy. And, I know that I've probably been guilty of this too, but one part in your book that said that there were people you found out from your kids' school that were avoiding you because they didn't know what to say to you. That was really pretty fascinating to me, because that's just like a simple truth put right out there. And then another thing that kind of stood out for me too, that was pretty an amazing thing to hear, is that when you did start asking for help for people who put it out there, and then there was the friend who said, you guys made a connection, and she was like doing stuff for you, and then it got to a point where she's like, I can't help you anymore. And it really hurt your feelings, and it ended up hurting the relationship. So yeah. I think that what you said in the beginning about being specific, and there needs to be open lines of communication. So I think even this could help people dealing with loss, not just the people who are trying to support through loss. Because if I'm going through something that's a crisis and a horrible life-changing event, because let's be honest, we're human beings, we all go through loss. I just lost my mom last year, and luckily I feel very supported by an amazing, strong, loving group of friends and family. So that was, I didn't experience it, and it wasn't really horrible for me. But I think it would be different if you lost a spouse or a child or someone that was just, you lost your person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that if you can be specific, you can show love and say, I understand you, I see you, I love you, it breaks my heart. What you're doing is those simple words, I hope they're easy for people to say, because they're so powerful. But back to the thing where you say, okay, I want to make sure that I'm not taking advantage, or how do you find the fine line, and what could have saved that relationship with that friend of yours who got to the point where she felt like she was doing too much for you?
Jane, thank you for bringing that up, because that's something that's overlooked in the book. Personal boundaries are really super important. And a lot of the times, you end up, you want to help your friend. Like, you are desperate to do anything. And so sometimes you'll jump in and you'll end up hurting yourself while you're trying to help them. And that just builds up the resentment. And that was the case with my friend. She really wanted to help, and I really needed to help. And, so my responsibility was to, kind of try to spread it out. But here was someone who kept coming back and saying, I can help you, I can help you, I can help you. And then she got to a point where she was oversaturated. And so, before you jump in to help, one of the reasons I put this book together was because there's really simple and easy things you can do that don't take up your whole life. My favorite story is my neighbor one day after my husband died came up to my house and said, when was the last time the oil was changed in your car? And I was like, I don't know. I couldn't even tell him if the little red light was on. And so, because I was in a fog. And so he said, well, here's the deal. I'm going to be home all day tomorrow, leave the keys in the mailbox. I'll pick up the car, text me, I'll pick up the car, I'll take it for an oil change. And I was like, okay. So I did that, and he took it for an oil change. He washed it, and he filled it with gas. And it was, so funny, I still get teary-eyed, because it was such a simple, easy thing to do. It took him all of an hour, and it meant so much to me, because I would never have asked anybody to fill the car with gas. It just I would have thought, I can do it myself. This is so stupid. Let me just do it. But he came in, he did something very simple, and he came up a couple other times and did some other very simple things, but he didn't lose himself when he helped. And I think that's the really important thing. We often feel like we have to come in and like take over somebody's life, and we don't. I will tell you from my personal experience, some of the most meaningful things that were done for us were the small little things, like the gas, like the oil change. They weren't the big things like someone organizing, food delivery. And that was big and that was huge and that was helpful. But so setting personal boundaries, because we're all super busy. You have a life that you're trying to live. Your friend is going through this crisis. You want so bad to help her. You want to dip in and you want to kind of sort of pay it forward and say, thank you for being in my life. But you also don't want it to take over your life. And so it's really important that you check in, what can you do? How much time do you have to do it? And that you release the guilt is a very key part of this. You are not Superwoman or Superman. And you can't, no matter what you do, you can't take away that cancer. So the best thing you can do is just kind of keep popping in and out of her life and letting her know that you're thinking about her and that you're caring, that you care for her. But that doesn't mean you have to let her what she needs take over your life. So I think that's an important part of being able to help in a really great way. And unfortunately, neither of us knew about setting those boundaries, and that friendship is over. And, it pains me. It really, really pains me.
Yeah, I can see that. In fact, I think what I love what you said in here is some of the most important words you can say is that you matter, and
Yes.
you matter to me. And before I forget, just because you were saying something about food, I see this so much, and I've seen this since I was a little girl. Whenever there's a loss or some big crisis going on, one of the first things people jump in and do is bring you food. And like you said, that is like such a gift. I mean, you don't ever want to not do that. But you're at a certain point, it's like, okay, I have like 17 casseroles and 3 cakes. And, I think that we do, and I've been guilty of this myself, where if I'm assigned to take a meal to somebody that's had a death in the family or whatever, I take like enough for 20 people, and I don't know why we do that. So I think it's a cool thing if you're the kind of person that's an organizer. You could even step in and say, how about if I'm in charge of meals for the next 2 weeks or 30 days or 1 week or whatever it is that you want to do, and then keep in mind that, that person can say, well, this is a family of 4. They don't need 4 cakes this week, or they don't need, 15 casseroles. And like I said, it's not that this stuff isn't appreciated, but to me that really jumped out, because I think every single person that's listening to this can completely relate to the food thing. Am I right?
Totally. And I just remember, we had, my a couple of friends of mine got together and got me like one of those box freezers. And I was like, I don't need a freezer. That's just dumb. I don't need a freezer. I cried when I sold it, because we moved into an apartment, so I didn't have a place for it. It was the best gift ever, because we kept filling it with food. But in the beginning, people bought a ton of food into the house. And I wasn't eating. So all that food was going bad, and I was trying to like dole it out to friends who came by, because I wasn't eating. 2, I remember my kids came to me about a month after Art died, and they're like, please, Mom, no more lasagna, because everybody kept making lasagna for us.
Yeah.
And so, there are great websites out there that can organize food delivery. And I always suggest you don't take food every day. You get food 3 times a week, maybe 4, depending on your family size, because that is exactly true. People will really do, like they will, they'll, you're cooking for 4 and they cook for 20. But here's a really important thing to think about food. We think about it right away when the person's immediately in crisis, after a death or after a cancer diagnosis. But that person in crisis is going to need that food 6 months down the line. So instead of bombarding them with food that's going to make them feel guilty, I had a really hard time throwing out stuff. We had to throw out a lot of food, and it literally, it just pained me even more, on top of my pain of losing my husband. But 6 months down the line, they're still going to need a meal. 6 months down the line, that lasagna is probably going to look pretty good. So, hold off on your desire to get in there right away and to bring something, and just wait 2 months. because, you know, people forget that someone remains in crisis after the initial kind of big, oh my gosh, this has happened, happens. And, you know, I had someone deliver a meal to me a year and a half after Art died. And it was the best thing ever, because I was still struggling, you know, to put food on the table every single night.
Yeah.
And she brought it in one day and said, hey, I made you 3 different meals. They're all freezable. Here you go. And it was the best thing ever. So it's never, you know, waiting 6 months is probably even more of a gift than bringing it right away.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Okay, so obviously you and I have this amazing bunch of information, especially you, that you can share because you personally went through this and very recently. So what I would love to do is to give people a chance to connect with you. Obviously, this book is available to purchase, 100 Acts of Love, and it's not a big, dense book full of a ton of text, but it's just this doable manual of great tips. I mean, this is book. I think every person should have this, because we all know people who have these horrible diagnoses. We all go through loss, whether it be someone that's really close to us, like a family member or even a coworker, and it just gives us all these helpful tools, which I love. So you let me know that there are some ways that people can connect with you. So Kim has a website called 100actsoflove.com, and there's some cool things that you can actually connect with Kim on. And the first one I'm just going to go ahead and say is that the ebook is not out yet, but I think by the time we air this video, it will be available for you to simply go on and get the ebook. So if you're an ebook reader, then this is going to be, you know, your way to do it. If you're like me, I love ebooks and I have a ton on my Kindle, but I am a book lover. In fact, you can see behind me, I have tons of books and they constantly rotate as I read them. So Kim, tell me what people are going to find and how they can connect with you when they go to your website.
Sure. So first of all, I want to offer you guys a special link because, you know, Jane is a great supporter and I like to support anyone who supports Jane. And so you would go to 100actsoflove.com/Barlow. And there, you know, you'll be able to get, there's a very quick free download, but I also have some products and packages that will allow you to be the most helpful you can be to your friends. So one of them is the ebook. I also have a package that includes the ebook and also 5 phrases, a recording of 5 phrases you can say in every single situation that will bring the person, you know, you care about, make the person you care about feel loved. And then I also have a list of 25 different companies who offer cards. Now, cards are something, you know, in today's world of electronics, we are always kind of like, oh, send an email, you know, do a text. But cards are so palpable, you know, when you get them in the mail, it feels really good. It feels very thoughtful. Even just receiving one feels really good. So I'm a big proponent of sending cards to people. But you go to CVS, and they have kind of like, you know, sympathy cards or with that deep, swoopy writing, or there's nothing in there about cancer, and there's nothing in there about making the person laugh, which I think is a key thing to provide anyone who's going through crisis, be the person who provides their laughter. So I came up with a list of 25 companies who I know have some fantastic cards, inspiring, fun, interesting, to the point, funny cards, and that's part of the package. And then I also have what I'm calling a 15 by 15. It's a coaching service, but it's 15 minutes. So you and I would get on the phone or we would Skype together, and you would tell me a little bit about your friend. Who is she? What is she going through? You know, how long has it been? Does she have any children? Where does she work? Just some really basic information. And I will send you 15 personalized things that you can do for your friend right after you get that list. So the idea is to, you know, personalize it to who your friend is, because every situation is unique. So go to 100actsoflove.com/Barlow. And I know that Jane will also have that link below this video. And, you know, you know, I love helping you show how much, you know, your friend matters to you. And I think, Jane, I know you talked about that really quick, but I do want to talk on that. You know, I'm a big proponent of, we don't realize how much we matter in each other's lives because we don't share that information very much. And so when your friend is going through crisis, sometimes you may feel like, what you say or what you do doesn't really matter because she's got other friends or she's got other coworkers, or, it doesn't really make a difference. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. You are in her life and in his life for a very specific reason. And chances are you will never know what that reason is. You'll never know why. But the fact that you're in it means that you matter. So just take a moment to kind of own that and then act accordingly. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. Send her a card, tell her you care about her, say a really helpful phrase. But the point is, you matter. You matter a lot. So I really hope you take that to heart.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, Kim. In fact, we're all on this planet together. We're all on this planet to help each other. And death and dying and crisis is part of it. And it's as much as we don't like to think about it, and we try to maybe push it aside, or just, especially when it happens to someone close to us, it's a part of life. And if we can have these great inspiring ways to do it right, I don't think, if you show someone that you love them, even if it's just in your way and maybe it's not right, but these tips are really awesome to help us just connect deeper as humans. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk with me. And, I think you're awesome. I loved meeting you last month. I really just think, my mantra has always been, we are on this planet to help each other. That's it. And if we can find ways to do that just a little bit with more compassion, a little bit more clear, because we do live in a busy modern world, and to go help somebody, we don't really know how, and to throw out that statement. Like, I honestly never even thought about that. If you need anything, let me know. I mean, I've really never said anything else but that. So that to me was really powerful. So thank you again, Kim. I hope you guys find some value from this. I think this is absolutely invaluable information. And thanks again, Kim. We'll talk to you guys soon.